You have found yourself on Locked On Bulls. I'm CEO Haize. That's Pat the designer. On today's episode, we'll be breaking down the Bulls going into a 5-game losing streak, their longest such streak of the season after a loss to the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll also be talking about a surprising trend that we're seeing develop over the last handful of games with the Chicago Bulls. And then we'll also be talking about is bringing Alex Caruso and Lonzo Ball and Patrick Williams back enough to really get us out of this hole that we're seeing the Bulls go into. We'll do all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Pat, man, we talked about it yesterday. We talked about how dark it was going to be if the Bulls lose this game, man. I'm not even going to lie to you. After the fourth quarter ended, I have not been on Bulls Twitter. I'm probably not going to go back on. It's probably about midday tomorrow when our episode drops. And
I'm a masochist. I'm on that mug already.
So the Bulls lose to the Philadelphia 76ers today. Our losing streak now hits 5, our worst such of the season. We had 2 separate stretches of this bad last season, just to put that in perspective, in a much shorter season. But with all that being said, Joel Embiid owns us 11-0 against the Bulls when he plays. What were some of your key takeaways from this game? What were some of the things that you noticed? And how frustrated did you get during this game?
I think we all noticed the free throw discrepancy, and like you said, we'll look deeper into that. But the biggest thing that I noticed is that the Bulls have a tendency in games like this, especially versus Joel Embiid, to do things to beat themselves. And Billy Donovan talked about it in the post game, right? Billy Donovan was talking about how, and for the first time ever, you heard him say the team was struggling with game plan discipline. That's the first time I've ever heard him bring that out, which means, hey, listen, I can put anything I want on this paper. If y'all don't go out there and run it, it's not gonna work. So it was interesting to see that, and I think that you saw that in the game, right? Again, we're talking about the same things. Niang standing out in the corner, wide open for 3-pointers. Niang, top of the key, wide open for 3-pointers. Maxey standing out in the corner, wide open for 3-pointers. Joel Embiid went off, right? Joel Embiid went off. But to me, the takeaway from this game is the fact that James Harden didn't go off, but he got everybody else involved enough that they were able to do enough collectively to beat you. And so that was the part that in the game where I was just like, why is Thibault wide open? Why is Maxey wide open? Why is Niang? My God, he don't look like he could play basketball. I'm sorry. Like, he don't look like he can hoop. And every single time we play him, we didn't have to deal with Korkmaz today. I swear, if it was both of them, I'd have lost it again. But this close. The biggest takeaway from this game to me is, again, in this game, we saw stretches where defensively, I was clapping my hands. Let's go. Playing the passing lanes. Let's go. Not letting Embiid bully you down low, snatching that mug away. Let's go. Let's keep this going, man. But you don't have a good enough team collectively together right now for it to just be stretches. And unfortunately, that's where we're at until we get pieces back in the building that are hurt right now. And so you have to say, hey, look, I saw y'all play defense for 4 quarters in Milwaukee. I need y'all to do that every single night. You don't have the age excuse. You know what I'm saying? With the Lakers over there, they old. They got 2 solid quarters of defense. After that, they tired. Y'all are 26. 27. Y'all got to get up for these games, man. Defensively, y'all got to get up.
Yeah, and I understand. We're missing Caruso, we're missing Paul, we're missing uh Lonzo. I understand all of that, right? Those are very good defenders, great defenders in Alex Caruso and Lonzo Ball. And Patrick Williams probably will be a great defender when it's all said and done. But defense is effort, right?
Yeah.
And I can understand if you miss a possession, if you roll out on it on the 3-point line hard, and they just get the shot off before you can get there and they make it or they make tough shots. All that is forgivable. But the lapses that we're seeing in defense, the the laziness in certain times, like it's not laziness for everyone, right? I don't want to label that to everyone, but one thing that we had very early on in the season, the next man up mentality, right? And I think what we're seeing is that the next man up thing works for short stretches, but when you're missing key players for a quarter of the season,
Yeah.
that next man up thing can only get you so far.
Yeah.
Tony Bradley in this game, he only got 6 minutes because what he did in the first half, like he literally was playing patty cake with Joel Embiid, like, hey, take these free throws. I don't want to guard you. Go to the free throw line. Troy Brown Jr., another player, only 6 minutes. So when you keep that in mind, and most of those minutes for those players came in the first half. So
Yeah.
that means for at least a half plus in this game, we were running with 7 players. It was the
Yeah.
starting five and Derrick Jones Jr. and Kobe. And shout out to Derrick Jones Jr. and Kobe. Kobe turned it around in the second half, right? I think
Yeah.
he made one bucket in the first half, came back, ended up scoring 19 points for us in the game, 3 for 9 from three, 7 from 16 overall from the field. He did what I've been asking for him to do in the sense that, all right, my 3-point ain't shooting. Let me put the ball on the floor. Let me try to get to the rim. Let me hit you with these floaters. Those type of things. Good to see from Kobe. Derrick Jones Jr. seems to finally be getting over that hand. He was 4 from 6. We needed every bit of that, right? But when you have that next man up and the next men up who are ready to play suck, that only gets you so far. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to crap on players. Like I get it. Tony Bradley has had some stretches and some flashes where you think, hey, there may be something here. But
Yeah.
guess what? We ain't got time to develop him if we're trying to compete right now.
Yeah.
Troy Brown Jr. is only 22 years old. And by the look of Troy Brown Jr. and his skill set, you would think, hey, this is a player, if nothing else, he's going to get you defense, and then he's going to play in transition. You can get him some buckets on transition. Every time Tony Bradley takes the ball on offense, he's not a threat to turn it over like Tony Bradley was, but Troy Brown, you look at it and you're like, all right, man. So are you going to airball it or are you going to do a high brick? Or what are you going to do? Because I'm not trusting you to make
the
the show.
sequence too, dog. It was like the Tony Bradley airball, or no, the Troy Brown airball into the Tony Bradley immediate foul.
Yeah.
Was just like, I'm finna flip this table that's sitting in front of me right now. Here's one thing that I want to ask you, dog. Like,
okay.
When you saw the game tonight, right? Even with all of the things that we can say are out of the Bulls' control.
Yeah.
Do you think that we have a problem with controlling the things that are in our control on a consistent basis, making shots, getting rebounds, getting the long rebounds, fighting for the extra bucket? I think we saw better effort from Tristian when he was out there, but he got into foul trouble early as well. But do you think that we do a good enough job controlling what we can control on a consistent basis or not?
No. And here's the reason why I give that. The Bulls out rebounded the Sixers by, I think, 10 in this game, right? At least by the half. I know they're
Yeah, 48-38.
10 rebounds. But it felt like every 50-50 ball went to the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah.
I've never seen a game in which the box score, there's such a big discrepancy in our favor on offense, but that game felt like we could not come up with the ball when we needed it. It's that type of effort. And one thing that perfectly visualizes it is the play, and it was early in the game, in which Zach LaVine let the ball go out of bounds because he just thought, hey, it was out on the Sixers. And then when they were like, no, it's Sixers ball, the look on his face, like there was no reason for him to just let that go. Fight for that ball, right? And I don't mean to come down on the players, but no, we're not doing a good job at controlling the things that we can control. And I get it. I know the whole battle tested thing. We have a lot of players that have not played meaningful basketball for long portions of their career, or they're fairly young.
Yeah.
But something needs to happen. To hear Billy Donovan say that we're not even executing the game plan correctly.
Yeah.
That you can't come up with the 50-50 balls if you can't even do the game plan correctly. That's an issue.
That was a concerning here in the post-game show. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
When he said game plan discipline, I was like, y'all not even running the plays? Like, what does that mean? Like, are we talking about the defensive game plan? Because clearly, like that's the one thing I kept telling us. I was like, listen, everybody wanted to say, everybody wants to say, they're still saying it. Billy Donovan can't coach. Billy Donovan gets out coach.
Mhm.
And by the way, we're intelligent fans here. I can see it in the comments and Locked On. Shout out to y'all for showing us so much support early on in the YouTube comments as well. I can see that we're intelligent fans here. Let's update our narratives. You know what I'm saying? Every game isn't Billy Donovan can't coach and Vooch is the reason we lost him. Amazing. I didn't see that in the live stream tonight. But Vooch did it again. Like, he's not even on the court. But the Bulls, to me, like, I look at what Billy Donovan does and what people expect him to do, and they're just like, hey, change this, make this move, do it. And it's like, you realize, like, making that move puts in Troy Brown, who's the dude you can't stand. And if I don't put in Troy Brown, it's Matt Thomas, who's also the dude y'all can't stand. And if I don't do that, like, when it comes to the consistency of what we're seeing from Billy Donovan, he's trying to figure out what's going to be the best rotation effort-wise to put these dudes on the floor. And unfortunately, everything he tries, and especially tonight without Vooch in the lineup, by the way, for everybody that said we don't need Vooch, you need him. Without Vooch in the lineup, you literally didn't have enough to compete with this team. And you still kind of did.
Yeah.
To an extent. You know what I'm saying? But, like, it's just sad to see him say we're not executing the game plan well enough for us to win these plays. We're not doing the things we need to do consistently enough for us to win these games. And that, listen, as much as we want to put this on Billy, you have to do better. You have to, them rah-rah coaches, Bears fans, y'all know how far them rah-rah coaches get you. That don't get you that far.
Yeah.
I need X's and O's. And you got to do what the X's and O's say. Some of this is on the players as well.
And I'm going to present this question to you, not because it's what I think, right? At all. Let me be clear in this. I like Billy Donovan. I have issues with his adjustments, but his coaching overall, I like. I think he's slow to make adjustments. That is my one thing with Billy Donovan. But as a coach, I like Billy Donovan as a coach. But I do want to ask you this, because somebody's going to ask it in the comments. That comment from Billy Donovan, is that him passing the blame on the players?
No, because he also puts blame on himself to where, hey, I have to do a better job in teaching these players what they need to do, how to be in these positions. And he acknowledges the fact that, hey, listen, we haven't had a lot of guys who are in this position. We haven't had guys who've been in a winning situation where you're the hunted, not the hunter. I think the best way to explain it is, as fans, we don't see the shift, right?
Yeah.
We don't see the shift that comes in. And so we just see things as, and I'm throwing we in there because tonight really showed me a lot. Because I didn't think this way either until I heard Tristian Thompson talk about it tonight, where we say this team was doing this. Why can't they do this anymore? They should still be doing this. Tristian Thompson came out there tonight and he talked about how, as a player, you have to realize that when you're in this position, teams aren't playing you the same way at this point in the season that they are in the beginning of the season. Teams aren't playing you with the, oh, we got the Bulls coming up tonight. All right, let's get ready for the game. Let's go. Teams are putting things in place now that they want to use against you to disrupt you, just in case I got to play you in the playoffs, because right now you're showing me that you're one of the top teams in the league. He said, we did this in Cleveland. We did this everywhere I've been that's been winning with championship culture. When you have that, I might play this team, you're putting things in place. And so these players are in a position they've never been in before. I think, like you said, the adjustments come a little slower. And we've always seen Billy Donovan kind of be the, I'm going to let the players play the game. And if I need to make an adjustment, I'll make that adjustment. But we also don't give Billy Donovan credit for the adjustments he does make as well. I see that a lot. You know what I'm saying? I saw in that Memphis game, adjustments did come on ways to keep Steven Adams off the board. Nobody gave him credit for that. You know what I'm saying? Like there's subtle adjustments that are happening as well. The adjustment we want to see is get that dude out of there, put that dude in. And I don't think that's always the answer.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, we are about to get into the fact that the Bulls have been having a huge free throw discrepancy. But before we do that, we have to talk about BetOnline. Football might be over for the season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. For all the latest odds, totals, player performances, props to where the next Flyer head coach is going to land, BetOnline is the number one spot for your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news for the season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is the source for hockey, boxing, UFC odds, right up into Olympic coverage and more. Head to the website today and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, Pat, I talked about an interesting stat before we started. The Bulls have had 44 free throws in the last 3 games, whereas their opponents have had 50 more than that with 94. Now, I'm a conspiracy theorist in life. I don't trust anything that I see in the national media. Then what does that have to do with basketball podcasts? I don't know, but I felt like I needed to say it. But with that being said, there are Bulls fans that are asking, is there something going on with the way that the Bulls are being officiated? So when you see and hear a difference like that between how what the amount of free throws the Bulls are getting versus their opponents, what does that say to you?
Each situation is different. Weirdly enough, they've come one right after the other.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the Atlanta Hawks game, Bulls were outshot 28-7 on the free throws. But what I saw in that game was a Bulls team that even when Atlanta got in foul trouble, they didn't attack the bucket. What I'm seeing is a Zach LaVine even tonight, even more so than a Zach LaVine that's clearly 70% of himself and not attacking as much. A DeMar DeRozan who's not getting those same calls because he's not driving in to the bucket as much. And players are playing him differently. Players aren't just running into him and running over him like they were. And even Billy Donovan said after that Hawks game, listen, we fouled entirely too much on one end, and we didn't do enough to draw fouls on the other. We had Atlanta in the bonus at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the Bucks, NBA champions. Do I like it? No. But let's be real. We lived off of that for a long time, Bulls fans.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
We had 10 years where if you breathed on MJ, he got the call.
Yeah.
I saw my favorite play of him. One of my favorite plays of MJ is him looking at a ref, yelling at the ref, saying, "Are you kidding me?" And the ref going, "You got it."
Oh
What?
man, that's
What?
funny. That is funny.
And so Bucks, do I like the discrepancy there 33-11? No, because clearly you're calling it with a bias of that's the NBA champion. But I think that it's the NBA champion. You kind of got to hold that one, unfortunately. This one is the first game, right? And even in that, right? Here's the thing. Let me make this point. This one is the first game. With 5:41 left in the third, the Bulls had shot 10 free throws, the Phillies 26. And there wasn't a clear reason why. The Bulls were driving. Tristian Thompson was banging down low. DeMar DeRozan was driving. Kobe White was driving. Consistently, you saw when the foul calls came, it was on somebody grabbing a wrist up top or something like that. Never when it was in the act of shooting. Now, by the end of the game, 26-34 is your final free throw tally. That's more what we've seen kind of throughout the entire season, where if it was called egregiously one way in the second half, you would kind of see it come back the other way. But we didn't see that until what I would say is too late in this game. And it really affected how the Bulls were able to play. Because at that point, now you're saying I'm driving in there, altering my shot, and I'm not getting a call for it. Now I got to start shooting. Now I got to start just trying to get open shots. And now I got to just try and start, because driving to the bucket's clearly not going to get me the call I need. and I'm gonna miss the shot if Joel Embiid's down there smacking me around. I mean, literally, the call they overturned, how's it not a foul? The call that they overturned, he was hugging him. Like I
that call, Pat. Listen, I'm not a very angry person usually, unless I'm watching the Bulls or the Bears. I get belligerent.
Let's get
when I tell you the hoodie that I currently have on somehow went from in one fell swoop on my body to in the windowsill on that call. That's not an understatement. That call frustrated me because how is that not a fact?
And the problem is the next one wasn't. Like the next one, legit, like the next play, Bulls win the tip. Tristian wins the tip. They get it up to Zach. Zach drives to the bucket, goes for a layup. Joel Embiid legitimately missed him, and you called that one a foul. Like the discrepancy was there, and I don't want people to think. Here's the thing, right? The refs can call you out of a game, and I think that they did that because it completely changed the Bulls' game plan, where Tristian Thompson is able to be on the floor. Even Tristian said, my favorite quote from Tristian, minus him just talking about, going at the media about building narratives, was, I'm not going to give the NBA a present so close to my birthday. So I'm not going to say anything about how the game was officiated, which in not saying anything absolutely tells you he thought that there was some trash calls tonight going his way. So like that absolutely changes how the Bulls are able to play their game. That completely derailed our defensive scheme. You saw at one point Javonte Green, Zach LaVine, and Derrick Jones Jr. triple teaming Joel Embiid, trying to slow him down.
Yeah.
That kills you. Now, does that mean the Bulls still didn't do enough, or still could have done enough to win this game? Yeah, no. Like they could have made shots. They were wide open for threes in the corner. They had free throw opportunities that they missed. They had, you know what I'm saying? Things that changed this game. But it absolutely caused, to me, this is the one game I look at and I say the refs caused us to be taken out of this game. The Milwaukee game, they the champions. The refs caused us to be out of that one too, but they the champions.
That's fair enough. It's just such an interesting trend because the Bulls have been officiated weird all season, right? But like you said, very much so. It's like, all right, give them a quarter, then they'll come back to us or something like that. It's still been weird throughout the season. This last handful of games is literally like the refs have said, hey, DeMar's been getting too many free throws. Cut that. Now, DeMar got his free throws this game, but it was like they're like, hey, DeMar, sorry, you're not getting it today, right? We got 4 of them for you over the course of the game. That's all we got for you. Other than that, you're gonna have to figure it out. Zach, at this point, it's like, hey, Zach, you're a shooter. You shoot. We don't want to see you in the rim. Don't even worry about it. We ain't got nothing for you. And even when Vooch was like, there were literally times where there was people on Vooch's back, right? On Vooch's back, asking for a piggyback ride. And the ref was just like, nah, that's basketball. It's good. But then on the flip side of that, when it happens on the other end, they were getting those calls. Now, I'm not here to say that the refs have it out for the Bulls. I don't know. Maybe Zach LaVine, maybe one of the refs' wives slipped him their number. I don't know if something like that happened. I have no idea. Tony Bradley isn't doing anything else. Exactly. Maybe it's something I don't know, but it is definitely frustrating to see, especially how long it's been going on. And when you have a player who is in the MVP conversation this year, regardless of where you have him ranked, he's in the MVP conversation. How many other players can say that they just aren't getting calls for such a long stretch of the season? I don't know, but it's frustrating. But again, at some point you have to adjust, right? And I will say this, DeMar, for a period of time there, was so used to getting the calls, he almost expected it. And then when he started not getting them, we saw him get some texts because he started getting frustrated and things like that. So I hope that it comes back. I hope that it gets back to being played even, but it definitely is something to continue to look out for because a 50 free throw discrepancy, that's not light, right? And most of that got closed up in this game because, like you said, in the second half, we started getting calls.
Yeah.
It probably would be closer to 55, 60 if it wasn't for us getting some calls in that second half.
Where would you say how much of a percentage, right? Because there's some fans that say the reason we lost this game is because of the free throw discrepancy. And listen, versus Milwaukee, valid reason. You got 33 shots at it. You're gonna score a lot of points.
Yeah.
I think they made like 26 of them, something ridiculous. So where would you say the percentage of blame versus free throws versus blame to what the team actually did is? Would you say it's 50-50? Would you say it's 60-40 on the free throws are the reason we lost this game?
No, I even can't say that. The free throws aren't. They played a part, right? If I had to put a percentage on it, the free throws in this game probably played about, let's say, 30% of the loss, and that's just me trying to be fair. Because it was just sometimes it just seems like players fell asleep. Like as good as Io did, and that's one of the things me and you talked about yesterday is how is Io going to do against Maxey? Maxey had 2 points in the first quarter. I think he only had one made basket.
Yeah.
In the first half, I should say. He came back and was like, "Oh no, Io, I got you this half." And so it's things like that. Not rotating out. The laziness when it comes to getting 50-50 balls. But I mean, again, you're playing against Joel Embiid. Joel cooked us. And that's what happened. What about you? Where do you put it at?
I would agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to blame free throws for it because I feel like there's other ways that you can win the game. Free throws can keep teams close. There's not many teams that can say they scored 70, 80 points off of free throws. I mean, tonight we're talking about 27 points on free throws. The Bulls had 20. So you're talking about a 7-point differential there. 7 points ain't going to get you a win here. So in the Milwaukee game, I would say there's more of a case for it. In this game, I would say, I'd probably agree with you, probably about 70-30. And I think that's probably the highest I'd go with because there's so many other things you could do on the floor to get a dub in these games. And we've seen the Bulls. Listen, this ain't new. We've seen the Bulls free throw discrepancies almost cost them games, but they still pulled it out, right? And we've seen the Bulls benefit this season from free throw discrepancies. And we see DeMar slide on that floor, and we like, hey, you breaking Wilt Chamberlain records, dog? You get that call. I'm gonna put my head down on it. So this could be now. What I will say is this could be a evening out. The NBA has a weird way of doing that, right? Where
Yeah.
the refs all get together and they're like, man, we gave this dude a lot of calls here that I don't think are calls. And so they kind of even out on the team. Do I think that that's right? No, that means you need to do better at your job. And I think that, listen, the refs can't find us. There's a lot of bad referees in this NBA. I'll say it for you, Tristan. There's a lot of bad refereeing going on in this NBA. What is a travel? So, I think I would probably agree with you there when you say 70-30, because there's so much like the Bulls shot 45% tonight. They shot 33% from three. They just didn't knock down threes. Kobe was wide open multiple times. Javante passed up a bunch of them. Zach LaVine passed up a bunch of them. And I think that even with that, it's like, your knees messed up. Okay, you're trying to do something different. But if you're in that much pain, like he looked like in the second half, he looked like he was in a considerable amount of pain. You're probably hurting us by being out there because we're going to need you further on in the season. So or in the playoffs, we're going to need you. You know what I'm saying? So there's 70% of what's happening on the floor that's still controllable by the Bulls. And I would say there's a good chunk of that we're not getting done. And that's bigger than the free throw discrepancy to me. Now tonight, like I said, it changed your game plan. 30's high. On the defensive end, you lost your only defensive option.
Yeah.
Because you put Tony Bradley in there for 5 minutes and Billy was like, that ain't gonna work. I saw your tweet too. This happened. I want Tony Bradley off my team.
that was exactly how I felt. I'm like, I have nothing left to say about it. I need Tony Bradley up off my team, man. Like I have a bet over on my channel. I have a bet that if Tony Bradley is on the Bulls roster by opening day, I have to eat a part of a orange peel. So I need him up off my team.
That's not bad. That's good. That's
It's
good
not that
vitamin
bad.
C for you, my boy.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not
not
that bad.
that bad, right? It
I
could be a
thought you.
lot worse, but
I thought you was going hard on that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no.
I got to spend money on a Tony Bradley jersey that you got to custom order to get. You know what I'm saying? They not selling that in stores.
Oh God, there's no way that anybody will ever catch me in the Tony Bradley jersey. That's not gonna happen, man. Like that is not gonna happen. All right, Pat, let's get into the last topic that we have for
Let's
today,
do it, my
man.
boy.
So this one, we look at players coming back. Alex Caruso, Lonzo Ball, Patrick Williams coming back. We've already talked about the free throw discrepancy. We talked about the Bulls not doing things they need to do. We even touched on Billy Donovan's coaching a little bit. Is it enough? Is that going to be enough of a shot in the arm, bringing AC, Lonzo, and Patrick Williams back? Or are our problems that we're seeing more structural with this team? What do you think?
So I dropped this video over on my channel today, kind of talking about basically the same topic, essentially. And the biggest thing that scares me about it, right? Because Caruso, Lonzo, P. Will eat up a lot of issues in a lot of these games, right? Like versus the Bucks, you can't tell me we can't get 4 or 5 stops there that absolutely put us over the top. Versus a lot of these teams we've been in close games. You know, the Hawks 130, 124. The Grizzlies 116, 110. The Hawks, well, we beat them that time, but a lot of these games that we've lost haven't been. I can't believe we lost this. Like it's been we struggled on defense. The part that scares me is the reliance that comes in to what you do best when you're struggling.
Mm,
And that's going to happen in the playoffs because there's a lot of people that haven't played in the playoffs before. I mean, Zach LaVine's never been in the playoffs. Lonzo's never been in the playoffs. Kobe White's never been in the playoffs. A good chunk of our team has never. And
yeah,
some of the dudes that have, Vooch has been in the playoffs. He's never been out the first round.
yeah.
So I'm expecting this Bulls team to get out of the first round, even with a 5-game losing streak. I'm expecting us to get out the first round. The part that worries me about this team is: are you building mental habits through this season that will carry over and cause you some struggles when the playoffs happen? Are you
Mm,
going to have Zach LaVine trying to rely on his jump shooting when he's off because he can't get anything else to work? Are you going to have DeMar relying on his mid-range when he's off because he can't get anything else to work? Are you going to cuz struggles are going to happen. That's what the playoff brings. How do you overcome the struggles that the playoffs are going to bring? And usually you
yeah.
fall back on the habits that you've built throughout the season and what you do best. And we've seen a lot of bad habits from this Bulls team throughout the season. Have they won through those habits? Absolutely. But how long have we been talking about corner threes?
Mm,
How long have we been talking about getting over? How long have we been talking about knowing what defensive position to be in, knowing when to double team, knowing just knocking down shots? How long have we been talking about boxing out? Like there's some things that have come into play, and maybe if anything, that's the part where you can say, well, that's on Billy Donovan to solve that. But players are gonna revert back to what they know best when they're struggling. And what these guys know best is scoring. It's not always on the other end. It's not always making that extra effort. Now, we did see this Bulls team doing that early in the season when everybody was there, when you had Caruso, you had Lonzo, but that's a long time ago, dog. We're talking about December.
mm.
We're in March. You know what I'm saying? So that's the part that scares me. Are there bad habits built up that bringing those guys back isn't gonna fix?
That's a very good point and something that I hadn't thought about because you're right. And here's the question I'm gonna present a counter argument to it, right?
Let's do it.
Because I agree that it is an issue. You're an MCU fan? You like movies,
You
Spider-Man
already
movies,
know.
stuff
Oh,
like
come on.
that?
Come
Okay.
on.
All right. I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
So we just saw a whole Spider-Man trilogy that ultimately ended with what is typically the place that Spider-Man starts with, right?
Yeah.
So my question is okay, let's say we haven't built enough, right? And this is more so, I know you're a level-headed person, but this is more so for the Bulls fans. If they did not do enough to build the correct habits, it's still okay, right? Because this is a first season in a much bigger picture. Now, I don't expect this team to be a first round exit. I think that this team has more than enough in the tank. I think Caruso is going to level everyone out on the bench. I think Lonzo is going to help balance their starters and get them back to playing better defense. I think all of these things. Now, is the experience that Io's learned in this stretch of starting these, I don't even know how many games it's been now since Lonzo's been out. What type of dividends is that going to play in the playoffs, right? Of him coming off the bench now after guarding some of the best starting point guards in the NBA. Now, is his instincts going to be probably where we need them to be? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But does that experience that they've gained and a playoff run, right, whatever it ends at, is that going to be enough to where we don't see the dividends of that? Maybe we don't see those habits kind of take form in this season, but maybe, just maybe, we see the fruits of that take form next season. And is that enough?
I think yes. And even going into the playoffs, listen, moving dudes that have had to start to the bench is going to be amazing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like Lonzo Ball comes back and you're handing the keys off to Ayo Dosunmu, who's legitimately guarded every single point guard in the 25 games he's started and done a decent job at it. I mean, John Morant cooked that boy. But but it was tough for Ja in that first game. You know what I'm saying? It was a 30, but it was a tough 30. That's crazy to say, but it was a tough 30 for Ja. He didn't really get going to that third quarter, had a hot third quarter. Fourth quarter kind of went back down, but real hot third quarter, like 17 to 20, something like that. That last game, he cooked them. But still, is it like those things are good? Those are feathers in the cap. Those are getting guys experience. Those are things that you can hang your hat on and say those are going the right directions. But we're seeing it now, right? What did we see tonight? When things weren't going the Bulls' way, DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine really didn't shoot the ball great and didn't have an answer for what they could do to get to that next level. And so they just, hey, let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing what's working. Put up the shots, drive to the bucket. Like there was no adjustment on the player side. And maybe that's a limited look of it. You know what I'm saying? But like I feel like we saw DeMar taking those same mid-range shots that have been falling for him all season. So I don't want him to stop taking them. But when you see that they're not falling, what's the adjustment then? Do you go to the bucket? Do you try to step out? Do you like? I feel like that's the part where that kind of scares me. You know what I'm saying? Like when you get in these playoff series, guess what? They're gonna play you much like we're seeing them play you now. They're gonna close out, and the refs probably are gonna hold their whistles a little bit more going into these playoff series. Where do you see the mindset of this team going from that? And maybe bringing back Caruso and Lonzo fixes all of that. Maybe it does. Because here's the wild thing, right? Because remember when Caruso came back, it really did fix it.
Yeah.
Caruso came back for 3 games, and we looked at it and I was like, why can we play defense again?
It did fix it. You're right. And now having Caruso and Tristian out there, right?
Yeah.
So
that's big.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
I will say that Tristian defensively has been bigger than I expected him to be.
For sure. And granted, I have no issue admitting when I'm wrong. I never was down on Tristian. Tristian was one of the people, my 5th video ever on my channel, right? When I started the season, I started talking about buyout candidates after Patrick Williams went down. And I was like, be on the lookout for Tristian Thompson to possibly come to this team. But he's been even better defensively than what I expected him to be.
Yeah.
His instincts defensively, right? He makes some fouls. He doesn't do anything perfect, but his instincts defensively and the way that he communicates with his teammates. Everything I needed to know about Tristian Thompson was that time that Zach LaVine missed an assignment and Tristian was the first one yapping at. That was Tristian Thompson's 2nd game on this team.
They did it tonight.
Yeah.
They did it tonight. Zach came through. Zach came through and did something defensively, and Tristian was like cussing that man out on the sideline. I was like, dog, you ain't been here that long. Like, who you talking to, dog?
And the look
Like,
of disgust on Tristian's face when he sees certain stuff. Like, Tristian legitimately be looking at it like, you pathetic. Like what? Like the Principal Skinner gif. Pathetic. That's literally how he looks at some people. And it's needed on this team. So,
oh no, it wasn't Zach. It was Tony. That's
oh,
what it
well,
was.
that makes sense.
When
Yeah, that makes sense.
when Troy airballed it and Tony came down and immediately got the foul. You just saw Tristian cussing this man out, and Tony was just like, okay, I'm sorry. I failed.
Get that man off my team. That's all I got to say with that one.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And Bulls Nation, don't get too down on yourselves, man. Listen, things are going to turn around. We have brighter days ahead. I read something today that said,
really bright days ahead. You got Detroit next.
oh yeah, Detroit's won 5 out of the last 7.
hey, we lose to Detroit.
Oh,
we're gonna have to check on some people, bro.
If we lose to Detroit, I'm gonna be seeing red and not in the way that people think. That's all I'm gonna say.
We're gonna have to check on some people out here, dog. We can't do that.
Pat's gonna be on the video with me if we lose to Detroit. Like, hey man, I don't even know what's wrong with Haize. I don't know what to say about it. This man is comatose. I'm just here holding it
That's
down.
what you just sitting out. Hey, listen, I'm gonna let you have your rant. Listen, there's gonna be moments on this show, I guarantee y'all, where I am gonna rant. I will absolutely let you have your rant, dog. Tonight, they did just enough to avoid me from getting a rant. But man, some of them nights when they not doing it defensively, ooh, here we go.
Okay. All right. So but that's it from us for tonight, Pat. Well, you got anything left you want to leave them on, man? If not, give them your social media.
Nah, I think we gave them a good show, man. Gave them a solid 40-something minutes, man. They're gonna have a good time with this one. Hopefully we brightened up y'all day a little bit, man. Follow me on everything at Pat the Designer, at PATTHEDESIGNER. That's all my socials right there.
There you go. You guys can follow me at CEO Haize. That's CEO HAIZE. And you can follow us at Locked On Bulls because I just got access to the Locked On Bulls Twitter handle. So that's why I didn't really promote the show today because I've been waiting on that. So I got that now. So we got that set up. I'll be doing that. And then on tomorrow's episode, because you guys will be tomorrow by the time you're listening to this, one of the topics we will be discussing, because it's been asked, right? It's been asked. Somebody wanted us to talk about if Kobe White should be starting over Ayo Dosunmu. And we're just gonna leave it at that because we're gonna have so much fun with that topic because I can't believe we got asked that. But that is it for today's episode of Locked On Bulls. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you're following us at all those. But that's it for us today. Peace.
Y'all stay safe out there, man.